Hello, hello, and welcome to Minute Mix Tips. Today I want to talk about the snare. The snare drum, by its placement, its length, its punch, its ambience, its relation to the kick drum, its relation to the vocal, can say more than almost any other single instrument about the groove and the feeling of a mix, and its sonics. Because it really does determine, along with the kick drum, the bookends of the sonic landscape you're creating as a mixer. So I've got a song here by Joel Kraus called Work It Out. Let me play a little bit of it for you. Okay, so that's a pretty big, fat, weighty snare drum, and it does have takes up quite a lot of space in that mix. And let me show you a few different ways you can change the length and sound of that snare drum without adding any artificial ambience or even playing with the room sound. But first, let's take a look at the basic kind of treatment I've given it. On the channel itself is this channel strip plug-in that has quite a big effect on the sound. Listen to this. Without. With. And solo. Also, to help with the really fat sounding snare, I've actually tilted the EQ towards the top end of the spectrum with this very simple EQ plugin called Tilt. It's actually kind of one of my favorites. And as I've shown you before, there's 2 points at which the snare drum can be treated before it hits the stereo mix. One is the channel itself right here, look at this little window. And then again at its aux send, called snares right there, and on that aux send on an insert I have this aural exciter plugin, a multi-band aural exciter, and I've really accentuated this band that goes between about 2.5K to about 9K. So let me show you that sound as well in solo, and this is affecting both the top and the bottom snare mic. Okay, so here's a couple of other things that I use along the way when trying to figure out the right duration. First, I usually have, let me scoot back up here, I usually have a gate both at the beginning and end of the snare drum chain. The first one doesn't have to be set too tough. It's just meant to get out the other instruments that are being picked up by the snare drum mic. The mic that's picking it bleed from the other drums. So here's this one. Without. With. Just cleans it up a little bit so when you start really affecting it with other plugins, you're not getting too much of the other leakage through that channel. Now here's something that's going to add a lot of length. Listen to this. And you hear the hi-hats coming up. So when you add that much length to a sound in the track, listen to the difference. So it's really spitting out the top end. It's without it. So when you do that, then you might want a little gate at the back end to control the length of that. So listen to this now.
My friends keep telling me it shouldn't have to be this hard for you
Without.
and me to get along. But I can't understand how a woman and a man can be in love one day and then it's gone.
And then for an even more dramatic taste of that length, listen to this. This is a similar transient designer transient shape, but this one has the benefit of a crossover point. So it gives you the same 2 controls, sustain and punch, they call it here. And then this plug-in at the end becomes essential of controlling the length of those two. They're really compressors with different kinds of controls, and those transient shapers can do a lot to affect the sound of your snare drum. So that's about all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed that, and happy mixing. We'll see you next time.